So you're thinking about moving and you probably already have an idea if you want a new construction home or a resale home. Well, in today's video, we are going to go over 7 factors that I really think you need to consider before you commit to one or the other. Before we get started, my name is Amy Bang. Here is my information. If you are thinking about making a move in the greater Phoenix area, or if you have any questions, make sure you reach out. I would be happy to help. Now, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk about is location, location, location. So if you want that brand new home, a lot of times you're going to be looking on the outskirts of the greater Phoenix area. Some of the cities where we're seeing the most new construction development are cities like Queen Creek, Santan Valley, East Mesa, the city of Maricopa. Or if you go on the west side of Phoenix, we have Buckeye, the city of Surprise. There's some new construction up by Sun City and Peoria, parts of Glendale. So this is where it's all happening, simply because that is where the land is available. You may be thinking to yourself, but I don't want to live on the outskirts. I want to be like in the middle of things where the action is happening. Well, I'm happy to say that with these new construction developments, there are also some great shopping centers going in, and especially a lot of high-tech jobs going in near these new communities. So it can still be a great option if you aren't going to have a long commute to work anyway. You'll probably find that there's ample shopping and entertainment even when you are buying new construction on the outskirts of the area. Now, if you are working in Phoenix or you simply have a job where you have to get around to a lot of different areas, this is going to be a big con. You're not going to want to live on the outskirts and have a long commute on the freeways where you're stuck in traffic. It takes time away from your family or your downtime, work you could be doing. So if that's the case, you're going to probably want to settle down in one of those cities that are closer to the center of the greater Phoenix area. Now, there are some new construction communities here and there within those areas as well. They're just fewer and far between. I've also found that those communities don't have as many amenities typically, and the prices obviously are going to be a little bit higher. All right, let's talk about a big factor, and that is the floor plans that are available. When you go into a new construction home, there are just a lot of things about the floor plan that will be attractive to most buyers. Number one on the list is probably the open concept living, so that you can cook in the kitchen and you're looking out over the kitchen island into the living room and the casual dining area, and it's just very open and airy. Great for entertaining. People love that now. Another thing about new construction homes is that a lot of times they have more storage, bigger closets, bigger pantries, bigger laundry rooms. And sometimes even the laundry room is connected to the primary closet so that the owners can go right through their closet into the laundry room, and it just makes that chore a little bit easier. Another thing about the floor plans with these new construction homes that has been really popular lately are multi-generational floor plans. So what that is basically it's a little casita, almost like an apartment that is attached to the main house. Usually there's a door in one of the hallways where you can walk through that door and get into the casita. Sometimes you can't even get into the casita though unless you're coming from the outside. Typically these casitas have a bedroom, a closet, a full bathroom, and a small living area. They also usually have a kitchenette. Some are bigger than others with bigger appliances, and some are smaller, like more like a hotel setup, you know, with the mini fridge, that sort of thing. If you are interested in multi-generational living, make sure you reach out. It's something I have really been interested in, and I know a lot about which builders have which kind of casita attached, so I can help you find the features that you want in your casita and point you to the right builders and the right communities that have those. Another thing about these new construction homes that it almost seems like a given now is that the primary bedroom is split from the secondary bedrooms, so that, you know, the mom and dad, the parent, whatever, can have their own private space. The kids' rooms are in a separate hallway, typically on the other side of the house, so that there's a little bit of separation there, and it just keeps the peace a little bit more. But if you are buying resale, you might find that's not the case. And do you want to live with that, having all the bedrooms in one hallway? You know, maybe you're gonna have a formal dining room and a formal living room in that older home, and a lot of people these days say, I don't even use that. I never use a formal living or dining room. I wish that they would have just opened this up. And so then they start talking about knocking down a wall to, you know, open up the space, and all of that costs money. So something else to consider when deciding if you want a resale home or a new construction home. All right, let's talk for a minute about the landscaping and the lot size. This is one of the biggest factors, I think, when you're talking about resale versus new construction homes. Let's talk with the lots. So some people might be surprised, if you haven't bought a new construction home before, that the backyard is going to come as a dirt lot. That's almost always. There are just a couple builders here that will do backyard landscaping and wrap it into your mortgage, so reach out if you want to know more about those builders. But typically you can count on a smaller lot and a dirt lot. Now you're going to be thinking about putting in trees, grass, maybe some artificial turf, an irrigation system, and all of that stuff can really add up quickly. In addition, if you want a larger lot, or a lot that backs to a golf course or a green belt, you're gonna be paying a lot premium when you buy new construction homes. So that lot premium, I've seen typically around $10,000 and up, depending on the circumstances. That's all wrapped up into your mortgage, so it's not as big of a factor as some other things, but something to consider. Now, something that would not be wrapped up into that mortgage would be putting in a swimming pool. Again, there's one builder I know of that will let you do that. But a swimming pool, if you are set on a new construction home and you are set on having a swimming pool, well, I hope you have some money saved up, because you're gonna be looking at about $60,000 just for a super basic swimming pool here in Arizona. And I've seen them going up over $100,000 when you add in some of the extra features that people like to put in with their swimming pools. Now, in addition to the yard, you also have to consider just the age of the trees in the neighborhood. In a new construction neighborhood, obviously there hasn't been as much time passed, so you're gonna have smaller trees, less shade. Now on the plus side, things are gonna be looking pretty well manicured, so that's a good, but if you like those tree-lined streets and all of the green grass, you might wanna think about a resale home. Now in Phoenix, a lot of front yards are rock. There's a lot of tans, but there are some specific neighborhoods that are known for their green grass and their big mature trees lining the streets, you know, grass between the sidewalk and the street. Really pretty, and kind of almost has more of a Midwest feel. A couple of those that come to mind is Morrison Ranch in Gilbert. That's a big one. There's a real pricey neighborhood in Phoenix called Arcadia. That's another one that really comes to mind. And then there's just other neighborhoods sprinkled here and there that kind of have that feel to it as well. So if that's a priority for you, make sure you let me know. I'll fill you in on some of those neighborhoods and help you find one that might fit your family. Okay, here is another big one, and the new construction homes definitely win on this point. It is the amenities. Now, some of these new master plan communities just really blow my socks off. They are just so over the top with the amenities that they offer. For example, when you go over to Eastmark in East Mesa, a big hub for high-tech jobs right now, you will find a skate park, a fishing pond, restaurants, a huge garden, tons of impressive playgrounds, an amphitheater where they have outdoor concerts, they have a couple of little restaurants. There's just so much activities, clubs, a club for everything. Just lots of ways to connect with neighbors, and their HOA there isn't even all that high. That's just one of the bigger master plan communities. There are other ones on the west side of Phoenix. I can think of Sterling Grove, for example. It's a huge golf community. Verrado over in Buckeye has a really quaint feel with lots of amenities. So these master plan communities, these new construction communities, can really shine when it comes to amenities and activities. So especially if you're moving from out of state, that can be a big perk when you maybe don't know very many people and you want to be in a community where people are active, they're getting to know each other. You can join some of the clubs, you can sit on the porch or take a walk, and you're going to see some of your neighbors and be able to socialize more. A new construction community might be really attractive for that reason. Not to say you can't find that in some of the older communities, you can. And again, I have some in mind that I can think of, specific older neighborhoods that still really have a lot of activities and a neighborly feel. But typically when you're talking about amenities like swimming pools and sports courts, pickleball courts, things like that, you're gonna find way more of those in the master plan communities that are being built in the greater Phoenix area than you will in the older neighborhoods. And that brings me to the next item on our list, which are HOA fees. You're probably familiar with what a HOA fee is, a homeowners association fee. Pretty much all of the master plan communities and new construction communities are gonna have an HOA fee. I've seen most of them come in between $100 and $150, somewhere in that range. And sometimes you get a ton of amenities for that, and sometimes not so much. But if you want a new construction home, you can pretty much count on that. If that's just not your cup of tea, there are no HOA neighborhoods, of course, but typically those are gonna be older neighborhoods. So you might have someone down the street who decides to paint their house pink, or a neighbor who likes to work on all their cars out in the driveway. And you may find that there are more rental homes on your street, which can sometimes be a little bit troublesome. Maybe you're that person though. Maybe you like to have a pink house. Maybe you like working on your cars in the garage. No judgment here. You just want to get into one of those no HOA neighborhoods. Let me know that if you're thinking about moving here. I can set you up on a search so you can get listings specifically in those neighborhoods, and you can see what there even is available in your price range in a no HOA neighborhood. So something definitely to consider. If you have more questions about HOAs, go ahead and put them in the comments. Clearly, one of the factors to consider is simply the price of buying a new construction home versus a resale home. I imagine you probably have some preconceived notions about that. I know that I did before I was a realtor, about which is more affordable. Typically, a resale home is more likely to give you more bang for your buck. However, that's not always the case, and it really depends on what factors are important to you. One big thing is the incentives that may be offered with a new construction home. And those incentives will vary depending on the current market, so make sure you reach out. I can kind of give you some current information about the incentives being offered right now. Seeing new builders who are offering rates of 4.25% for a 30-year fixed, maybe a rate buy down where it's 3% less the first year, 2% less the second year, 1% less the third year, and for the duration of that loan. Sometimes the incentives is simply an amount that comes off of your list price or can be applied to your closing costs or a combination of those things. So these incentives can be really attractive, especially If the rate that they are offering is on a 30-year fixed and the rate is significantly lower than what you can get in today's market. Now, you do have to be careful and look for any hidden fees where they might be trying to make up for that incentive they're offering by charging you some fee that you didn't even realize. Another reason to make sure when you're buying a new construction home that you are working with a realtor who is looking for these things and keeping an eye on it so you're not getting taken advantage of. Another thing though with the price consideration on the flip side is with a resale home, you might have all sorts of big expenses coming up. When you're looking at resale homes, I always make sure that my clients know how old is the roof, the AC, let's look at the windows, what do you think about the flooring? Certainly the foundation has to be solid. So these big ticket items, if they are needing replacing soon, it's a huge factor. It's easy to fall in love with a resale home that has been staged, maybe painted, it looks really nice. You're so excited about it, you're willing to overlook the fact that the roof, will need replacing or the AC looks like it's about to go out. But you have to kind of push those emotions aside and start adding up the cost. How much is it gonna cost to replace that AC? How much is it gonna cost if we really wanna redo these floors? And then see, does it make sense to buy this home at this price? Is it, good enough of a deal? Or do we wanna buy something that's already been updated or go the route of a new construction home? All of these factors just really play off of each other, and it just takes some time to sort through all of those. I'd love to help you do that. Okay, let's go a little bit deeper with the expense of some of these items that I just mentioned because I had a couple more ideas. One of the other things to consider when talking about price and getting something that's brand new versus something that may need a lot of updating or big ticket items fixed is a warranty that comes with a new construction home. So if you're buying new construction, you're gonna get a 1-year warranty so that hypothetically, anything that breaks during that first year, you pretty much can plan on them coming in and fixing it. It really can give a lot of buyers peace of mind. And it's one of the factors that a lot of my clients bring up if they're wanting new construction home. They just like the idea that they can move in. If anything breaks, that first year, it's gonna be covered. And it makes them feel more comfortable moving forward with that. However, you do have to be a little bit careful. Some builders are easier to work with than others when it comes to doing repairs within that first year. As a matter of fact, you might want to look up this local Arizona inspector. His name is Cy Porter, Cyporter. He's gone viral because he does all of these videos where he's going into new construction homes in the greater Phoenix area and showing all of the issues with some of these new homes, problems with the build quality and how difficult it can be sometimes to get items repaired. So it's another thing to think about. If you're going to buy a new construction home, yes, you're going to have that warranty and you can kind of cross your fingers that if anything goes wrong, the builder is going to honor that warranty. But you also have to prepare yourself for the possibility that if something goes wrong, it might be a hassle to get it fixed. So just be prepared for that possibility. You also have to keep in mind that if you get a new construction home and you're going to make use of these incentives that they offer, they will ask you to use their preferred lender. So you're not going to be working with the lender of your choice. You're going to be working with the builder's lender. Again, you just want to pay attention to any fees that they charge and make sure that it's as good of a deal as it seems like. Now, if you are looking more for a resale home, but the rates are a little bit higher than you want, another thing that is a possibility is a rate assumption. Some resale homes are such that when you purchase this resale home, you can assume the rate that they had on that loan already. So if they bought that house and they have a 3% loan, possibly you could take over their loan. Now you're paying the 3%, but you're also going to have to be able to make up the difference between the current value of the house and the balance of that loan. Usually that's a fairly large amount of money, but if you're in that position, it can be a great opportunity. And the last factor I want to talk about when considering a new construction home versus a resale home is the return on investment that you will get with either one of these options. That's a big priority for a lot of clients. They don't necessarily care as much about the location or the age of the home. They just want to buy a home that will bring them the biggest return on their investment. Now, first of all, no one has a crystal ball, so we're not going to be able to predict rates. We're not going to be able to predict exactly what's going to happen with the market, but there are some indicators that can help clue us in on where a good investment might be found. One of those factors is, where is there a lot of growth happening in the greater Phoenix area, especially with the high-tech jobs coming in. We see a lot of growth over in Buckeye currently. We see a lot of growth over in East Mesa by Eastmark with high-tech jobs coming in there. Chandler already has a tech corridor called Price Corridor, which has been growing over the last several years. And then up in North Phoenix, we have the Taiwan Semiconductor chip manufacturing plant going in. And this is a multi-billion-dollar development that's happening in 3 phases. I think it's going to be complete in the next few years. They make the little semiconductors that are like the brains of electronics, things like your cell phone, your computer, electric cars, all sorts of things. That's where they're manufacturing these. And that's going to change the real estate market even in that area, because it's bringing so many high-paying jobs and supportive jobs to that area. So these are just some of the areas where, if you're looking for return on your investment, something to think about. But you also have to think about some of the areas that are closer into the main greater Phoenix area, because it's landlocked. There isn't anywhere else to build. So these homes also tend to hold their value. They can be older, so you might have to consider repairs if it's already had some updating done to it, and those big ticket items, have they already been replaced? These are the factors you have to consider when you're thinking about what kind of return on investment you may get. If you're thinking about buying an investment property and using it as a rental, I would love to have a deeper conversation with you about that. My husband, June, actually has been doing property management for a number of years. And for our investor clients, we are happy to do that property management for a really affordable price. So if you want to have a conversation about that, also reach out. We would be happy to connect with you on a Zoom or a phone call or via email. See what kind of possibilities there are for you there. Okay, that wraps up this video. Here is my information. Make sure you do not hesitate to reach out if you are thinking about moving to the greater Phoenix area, or if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments or reach out. I would love to connect with you and help you find your next home right here in sunny Arizona. I hope to hear from you soon.